Welcome to another episode of AI Unpacked. I'm your host for the show, James Kogan, joined as usual by my partner in crime, Malcolm Peralty. Malcolm, welcome back, my friend.
Glad to be here.
Nice to have you. So today we are going to do a very quick rundown, and I laugh when I say quick because we are not usually very good at being quick, but we're going to do our best here, and we're going to run down three recent trends, articles that have caught our eye in the AI technology space. And I would be remiss if we didn't talk about this first item right off the bat. It seems to have the tech world completely alight and abuzz with conversation, and you're already rolling your eyes. So that gives us a little indication as to what to expect, but it's impossible not to talk about it. And I know maybe at first blush, it's not an AI topic. However, it's not hard to see how this is going to be dripping with AI down the road. So we're going to talk about the Vision Pro, early adopters, wealthy people who were first in line to become essentially Apple beta testers, plopped down to $4,000 and are now getting these things dropped into their lives. And there's been a lot of reaction to them. And I wanted to get your take, Malcolm, right off the bat. I know, you're not an Apple fanboy. You're a bit platform agnostic. You aren't an iPhone user, so you're not locked into this ecosystem. I know you've probably been watching videos and seeing tweets and the whole bit from tech people that have been using this product now for a while. So what's your take on this at the moment?
I really enjoyed Marques Brownlee did a video where he talked about his initial experiences using the Apple Vision Pro. And, he actually did call it spatial computing rather than VR because that's how it felt to him. And I thought that was kind of an interesting take. I think the memeability of the headset right now has really kind of overtaken the technical amazement of this headset. A lot of what I'm seeing right now are people walking around in the middle of the street or in their Teslas driving down the street wearing the Apple Vision Pro. Not recommended. Like, this is not how you should be using this. Just because it has good pass-through doesn't mean that you should be living your life in a headset. I don't really get it yet. I think one of the things that was interesting to me is the idea that I could have a virtual workspace with a giant monitor. I loved the idea of having like multiple monitors because maybe you can't afford three, studio displays from Apple or something crazy like that. But they actually limited it to one big screen display of your monitor of your computer. You can have other things up and open around you and locked very well to the area that you're in, but really it's only one replacement monitor in this virtual space. I also think the battery life is always going to be an issue. Having a cable run from your head down to your pocket is always going to be an issue. And that's something that they're going to need to figure out at some point. But I just don't see the value proposition at this price point yet. I think it's really neat and it's moving things forward and the quality is there. But I don't know. I don't get it. I can't wait to see version 3 or 4 of this because Apple's first versions of anything isn't necessarily fully baked, in my opinion, especially in the last 20 years, unfortunately. But I would be keen to try one. I think that would be really fun. I've tried a few different VR headsets. A lot of them, because of my glasses, don't work as well as I'd like. I would need to kind of have them customized for me specifically, or they've caused me like really bad motion sickness. And I'm hoping that an increased refresh rate, a higher quality display might reduce some of those effects. But I'll have to wait and see until I can try it out. Are you going to order one? Have you tried it out yet? What do you think of this thing?
So, one, I'm struck by you saying like you're interested to see what Gen 3, Gen 4 of this product is going to look like or be like. And I think maybe the first take I have of this is that no matter what the reactions are, and they've been pretty positive in terms of what people's first sort of uses of them have been, is that this is the worst iteration of this product from Apple that there will ever be, right? So this is literally Gen 1, no killer app of this product, and presumably the technology that they've been using in this product has been in the pipeline for probably multiple years. So whatever Gen 2 is going to be, it's probably going to blow the doors off of this first generation product. I guess that's kind of like the thing I've noticed the most when people have been reviewing this and talking about it is I'm hearing a lot of this word of feel, like how this product makes them feel. And I don't know about you, Malcolm, but like when was the last time you used a piece of technology that actually made you feel something? You know, like you get a new smartphone. It doesn't make you feel anything. It's a few megapixels better, the optical zoom, the display is a little tighter, but like it doesn't make you feel anything. When you got your first computer, you felt something, right? There was something tangible where you like, my world just changed in terms of what I can do. This product, for all of its flaws and its ridiculous price point and its lack of a killer app, this product is making people feel something. And I think that is maybe its biggest harbinger for what's to come and what this is ultimately going to do. And Apple is incredibly good at being fashionably late to a market. This is what they do, right? They let a market kind of percolate a little bit. They wait and see what the potential is, and then they come in and they begin to blow the doors and mainstream this given market. And Meta has been in this space for years. They've been playing in the sandbox. They've been putting out headsets. They bought Oculus. They put out Meta Quests. And they've been trying to convince people for years that this is something that they should want to do. And let's be honest, they haven't been successful at that. People aren't running around with Meta Quests in the streets. They aren't, they just haven't been able to mainstream this product. And it's interesting because Mark Zuckerberg, when the Apple Vision Pro came out, he kind of slammed it in the sense, he said, quote, "I think that their announcement really showcases the difference in the values and the vision that our companies bring to this in a way that I think is really important." And he said that his product is fundamentally social. He said, by contrast, every demo that Apple has shown is a person sitting on a couch by themselves. He said, that could be the vision of the future for computing, but it's not the one that I want. And yet his product, the Meta Quest, hasn't been mainstream. It hasn't evoked any emotion from people. And Apple, with their first iteration of this product, is already making people feel something that the Meta Quest has had years to do and it hasn't been able to do. If I'm Meta, I'm shaking at the knees a little bit because I'm now seeing that people are reacting to this product in a way that Meta hasn't been able to do. And, Casey Neistat, for example, famous YouTuber, he said, quote, he said, "What occurred to me as I was sitting there in Times Square on a bench with strangers all around me, the real world moving all around me, I had a big screen up, I was watching a Mr. Beast video, and then over here, I had this keyboard and I can interact with it. Over here, I had my iMessages. Over here, I had my Apple TV, and then I had all the apps, and they're floating around in Times Square, and in the middle of New York City, I'm actually there. I'm there, and there's humans moving all around." And he said, in that moment, it was like, holy shit, this is the future of computing, and that everyone's been promising for the last 15 years. This is something that let me truly peek into where things are at and where this is all going. This isn't the future of AR or VR. This is the future interface for all computing. That was his reaction to it. What do you when you hear that? What do you think?
So a couple different things. One, I would say that the form factor, of course, needs further refinement. I think Google Glass was actually closer in achieving that future interface for computing in some ways. Something that looks a little bit more like normal glasses or sunglasses, I think will actually, break through that barrier. And whether it's Apple or someone else, I don't know. I think that, the idea of, they were able to do this on the flight in a really efficient way that they wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. The time would have been somewhat, not necessarily wasted, but kind of your life is on pause a lot of time on flight. So I thought, there are some interesting potential use cases for this, but I worry that Apple wasn't able to get the Netflixes and the YouTubes and other content platforms of the world to create an actual app for this device. And I think that speaks volumes to a lot of other companies kind of being like, is this really going to be, that market mover that a lot of people were kind of questioning?
That feels like a when, not an if. These companies cannot necessarily make an app day one, but if Apple is successful in mainstreaming this product, they're going to have no choice but to create an app for this product. So I think I understand the cautiousness, but eventually they're going to have to throw developer resources at something that is ultimately going to take the world by storm if Apple's successful at it.
Well, so here's the problem with that, twofold, right? One, these companies are all missing out on the memes right now. Like there's so much like free advertising that's happening with regards to this headset because it's everywhere on social media right now, and these companies they all kind of miss the boat. And two, hearkening back to something you said, will we feel this way about the iterative versions of this technology as it happens? Or will it become quickly that new normal where we're like, it's now slightly brighter, now it's slightly faster, it's slightly longer battery life? How long does it take for that transition to happen? And I think it's going to be fairly short with this technology because we have had some experiences with this kind of technology for more than a decade now. So while there is that emotional jump in kind of that S-curve of this new height of this technology, I think we're all going to become accustomed to it fairly quickly, especially if they can put out a version that a regular person can afford to buy.
Fair, but this technology, it does stand out as being different in the sense that you can live in this technology in some ways, so the iterations, the higher resolution, it's 650 gram ski goggles essentially on your head, right? So it's not hard to imagine that the next iteration, they're going to shave like 200 grams off of it in the next generation. So it's really going to make a huge difference. So I think you're going to see huge leaps for a while that are going to really change the experience of this product. And something else that really struck me about it is that, this idea of like spatial video, for example, about how you can, with the headset, you can take 3D video, and eventually you figure iPhones will be able to do it too. But then when you replay that video with the headset, you're not just sitting back in a lean back experience watching a memory. You're actually in 3D able to get close to that memory. You're able to move around that memory. And there was a Mac reviewer, I apologize, I don't know who it is or who to give credit to, but he mentioned that there was an episode of Mad Men. I don't know if you ever saw the TV show Mad Men. It was an advertising show, and John Hamm was like the big star. And he had to give a presentation about a new product that Kodak was putting out. And for those who don't know, who aren't OGs, Kodak was one of the original photography companies. And so Kodak had designed a projector where you put your photography slides in it in a wheel format, and then you just click a button, and it would just click one to the next, and project it onto a projector screen. And so they were trying to figure out like what to call the product, and they needed a marketing presentation for it. And he stood up, John Hamm, the character in Mad Men, and he said, "This device isn't a spaceship; it's a time machine. It goes backwards and forwards. It takes us to a place where we ache to go again. It's not called the wheel, it's called the carousel. It lets us travel the way a child travels, around and back home again to a place we know we are loved." And he made nostalgia as a really, really powerful thing, right? And so if you can relive a memory and you can change how that feels, wow, it's really powerful stuff. And this product gets us closer to really being able to relive something. And that in and of itself is a huge fundamental leap forward.
I completely agree. I think you're right on the money there. I can't even tell you how many ways that could be useful to me. I know anyone who is a parent or lost a loved one in their life probably wishes that they had an opportunity to live back in the space of those memories. So that could be the killer feature of this kind of technology going forward.
Sure, yeah. And someone else, again, another reviewer, mentioned it as something called like digital teleportation, where this product can almost let you feel like you can be wherever you want to be and be fully immersed in that, and vice versa. Someone could be fully in your space whenever they want to be. If that happens, if they're really able to make that happen, that is a really powerful thing. And to your point, we actually touched on this, I think, in an earlier episode about how you could bring back a dead parent, or Gen AI might be able to help you do that. You can now start, again, this is where Vision Pro starts to become an AI story, where you can start to see a physical product that immerses you in a digital space and really kind of takes you emotionally and physically into a digital space. Now, when mixed with the infinite possibilities of Gen AI, you can really start to see the possibilities start to interweave with each other. And will you be able to feed Gen AI a whole bunch of data and information about a dead parent, and then literally have that dead parent sit on the couch with you and interact with you and have a conversation with you? It's now starting to feel like that's a when, not an if. And this product, this interface, this type of computing is a window into that future. And that's, I think that's exciting. I think that's a fundamental leap forward.
I guess we'll have to wait and see.
We will have to wait and see. But it's exciting. And we had to talk about it because obviously it's definitely getting a lot of buzz. There's no question about that. And the only last thing I will mention on it, and you touched on it as well, that people are walking around with these things. And you don't underestimate the power of iconography. And Apple essentially, with this product, the shape of it, and the fact that people are just the fact that they're getting people to walk around with these things in real life with them, they are setting the design aesthetic and the iconography for this entire product market. And that is huge. Apple is the one that's doing this. Again, not to throw tons of shade on Meta, but like, they've had years to do this and they've not been able to do it. And with one product, with one release, with a very few number of people, Apple is now creating iconography around this entire market, and that is massively powerful.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, we are going to move on to our next story, and this next one's an interesting one, Malcolm, because I think it's been brewing for some time. This notion of the search engine results page from Google. I don't know about you, but over time, I have definitely noticed that my even usage of Google search has gone down. I'm not using it as much. It's not necessarily the place I would go to first if I'm looking for something anymore. Tools like Reddit and YouTube and X, of course. There's lots of other platforms out there where you can search for information. And now we're also seeing, with browsers, we're now seeing AI bleed into browser technology. Of course, there's GPT, but now you're seeing browsers bake in AI that will literally search the web for you and cobble together all the best things. And I've been using the Arc browser actually for well over a year, and they just came out with a feature called Arc Search. Now, this is something that's available on mobile at the moment, and they are starting to put it into the desktop version, but you can download it if you have an iPhone, Arc Search, and you can tell it to do something, and it will go out there and it will start pulling in all the best resources about Punta Cana and resorts and things to do, etc. And it'll do all of the browsing for you. And so I thought that was really interesting because it feels like the search engine results page, the more I look at it today, the more antiquated it's looking. What's your take on that?
I completely agree. I don't see any world where in the next 5 years people are using search the way we do now. I recently did some interviewing for a client of mine about how teenagers were using search today, and we came across this funny difference between like my generation and their generation, where I would go and like control click a bunch of articles and have them open up in a bunch of tabs and then kind of sift through them on my own accord. And they were all like, no, I open the first thing. If it's not what I want, I open the second thing. If that's not what I want, I do another search. They were very much focused on trying to find that good result faster. They didn't want to open a bunch of things. They didn't want to scan a bunch of content. They just wanted the right answer now. And they were very good at kind of avoiding all like the sponsored ads and things like that are now everywhere, all over search engines. And so they don't see search has a value add unless it gives them the right answer the first time. And that's where generative AI, especially generative AI that can learn your circumstances, learn your life, and understand the context of who you are, it'll just blow search out of the water so quickly. Like, this is not something that we're going to see 5 years down the road. This is something that's really going to start taking over in the next year. And Google is trying to play catch up as fast as they can by working on their Gemini model and figuring out how they productize that and how they monetize that as quickly as possible.
Well, that's the real big elephant in the room here for Google, isn't it? That the search engine results page, everything about it has been designed to be a cash cow for Google, to make money for Google, right? The whole AdWords ecosystem, of course, is all about search engine results pages. So if they start to lose that, and they are, but if they really start to lose that, Google's going to take a big hit.
Yeah, I mean, that's why with their Gemini AI service, they're trying to push people up the ladder of payments for their like productivity suite. So I think it's like $20 a month, and you're going to get Gemini AI plus like, multiple terabytes of Google Drive storage, and the fanciest version of like Docs and Sheets and all their things with Gemini built into it, so you can have it analyze spreadsheets and help you write emails. So they're going to try to move people to this other productized service as quickly as they can.
Mm-hmm. Now, Gemini is the rebranded essentially Bard. Yes?
It was kind of its own. It's actually its own AI large language model, and so they've deprecated Bard and their other like AI brands, and they're making Gemini their AI brand because Bard was not well received, and so they are taking technology from Bard and their other AI models to kind of move this forward, but everything will be Gemini apparently going forward for the next while.
Got it. Okay, so we're in agreement. Search engine results page seems to be going the way the Dota put it. Yeah, it's on its way out. Okay, we're moving on. Next story. This is an interesting one. As I wrote to you, I said it's a Taylor Swift world these days. We're all just kind of living in it. She won the Grammy for Album of the Year. She's got the Eras Tour, the highest grossing tour of all time. Her boyfriend, Travis Kelce, is a football star playing in the Super Bowl. So it shouldn't come as a huge surprise that the next controversy would really be about her. And it started out as a challenge in a 4chan forum where somebody was like, let's see if we can create pornographic images of Taylor Swift and get around the guardrails of Gen AI and start circulating these images, which they did. And it's been proliferated around the internet and caused a huge stir. That's Taylor Swift, and that's certainly, the deepfaking issue with celebrities and what you can create is one thing. But another thing is we're in an election year in the United States, and certainly we're already starting to see deepfakes of the president and candidates. And I guess this gets to the question, one, is this, I'm curious to hear, do you view deepfaking as the single greatest immediate threat that AI poses to society?
No. I think that this is an amusing sideshow that will cause the pendulum to swing too far in the other direction. We've let everyone have their freedoms to do basically whatever they want with Gen AI, and now governments of the world are probably going to clamp down on a lot of those freedoms and a lot of that opportunity to create and be creative because of edge cases like this. I think that a bigger threat from AI has more to do with, cryptography, more to do with, analysis, deep analysis of information, dealing with kind of opportunities to create new algorithms to take advantage of markets that exist. I think there's huge financial concerns with AI that are bigger than making silly images or videos or audio of famous people. I think it's frustrating, and we'll need to play the whack-a-mole game of creating technology to identify this content, but really we just need to teach people to sit back and think critically on the internet, because that's all it would take for 99% of this stuff to go away.
Really, I'm not sure I agree with that. I think the verification of information is a huge challenge, and I think the amount of damage that can be caused through the spread of misinformation is a huge fundamental threat that AI poses to society. There was a deep fake of Biden in New Hampshire that he basically asked people to not go out, and that may have impacted some things. And there was a company in Hong Kong that got scammed out of $35 million in funds because an employee had a deep fake video call with a CFO and ended up transferring the funds, and there's no arrest. I think that this is a huge problem, and I'm concerned about the integrity of democracy if these things are able to proliferate unchecked and we don't actually come up with systems of verification. It's something that dawned on me. It's like when you go on the web, we've had SSL certificates for a long time that, if there isn't one, you're immediately warned, this is not a secure website. We need some form of verification that will at least ensure that if we're looking at a political figure, that this has been vetted, this has been approved, and if it doesn't have it, that it's a very clear indication that this may not be real. And we don't have that right now.
And you never will. You never ever will, and here's why.
Well, that's a huge problem.
We're already seeing AI copy government documents and create like fake IDs, fake passports, anything that can be generated as an image or as paper or as a video or as audio can be copied by AI at some point. And if you weren't thinking critically about what you're seeing, even if I come up with, let's say, a special, encrypted QR code thing, if I see an image of that and I go, oh yeah, that's the new thing the government came out with to make sure we know it's real, and an AI creates a version of that, am I really going to double check? Am I really going to, as a human, make sure that that content and context is true and real? So no matter what system anyone's going to come up with, the problem is humans, not the technology.
How do you unsee things once you see them? So the impact of that is very difficult to wind back. Like if you are consistently seeing images or videos that aren't real, that carry a message, even if it's a subtle message, like, to your point about critical thinking, like I understand if something's quite black and white, like you see a video of a prime minister or a president, and that person is saying something that's really out of whack, like there should be some critical thinking that says, okay, well he's probably not saying that, or she's probably not saying that. But it doesn't take much in terms of subtlety. There's subtle messages that could be used that aren't so obvious, that it's not really about the intelligence of the human. It's more about, like, I'm not able to really discern what's real and what's not. And that's I think that, yeah.
That is the critical crux of the problem, right? Because even with critical thinking skills, it's only going to get us so far. We're going to have to get to the point where we actually assume everything is false and nothing can be verified. And that actually has a more negative impact than the actual material itself, right? The inability to trust anything you see or hear or read. I mean, we've had that issue with content online for years and years and years now. We've kind of swept it under the rug as like, that's just the way the internet is. Hopefully something will percolate the good stuff up to the top. And I think, now that it's audio and visual content, we're realizing, well, whoa, that's more emotionally resonant. That's more impactful. And that's going to be harder to ignore. And unfortunately, all these algorithms and systems that we've made are basically feeding people this content over and over again and variations of it. And it's being created faster and faster. I can't conceptualize any system or tool or technology that would allow us to verify what we're seeing in the media or even on an ad on YouTube or on our phone as a phone call. I just don't see anything that would universally or even partially work to address that.
Well, yeah, and I think what's clear is that the technology to create the misinformation is way ahead of what technology we're ultimately going to use to help curb misinformation or to help verify what's actually real. And that gap right now makes me wonder if this ultimate election year coming up in the United States is going to be deemed the kind of AI election. Like, we haven't seen anything yet, but I have a feeling in the months leading up to that election, I think we're going to see things and hear things that could very well impact the end result in a significant way. And we're going to look back on it. That was the election that AI stole, essentially. It's setting up that way anyway.
The interesting part about that is I think we're going to see like opportunities created by both sides, right? So this is going to be super messy. I think what will end up happening is people will just stick to the political lines that they've already drawn in their head, no matter what they see or hear or otherwise. And I think, the previous president is kind of, the proof of that truth, so to speak, where, he himself said he could go and shoot someone in the middle of a street and probably not have any issues or problems due to that. So, it's going to be a
mess indeed. But hey, we're here to create episodes to clean up the mess of AI stories and to help give you some clarity and talk about and expand on things that are of interest in this particular space. We like to unpack AI topics with every episode. Thank you for listening. We definitely look forward to catching you in the next one. Please like and subscribe wherever you appreciate it. We appreciate your time, and we look forward to creating the next episode and getting it out to you as quickly as possible. Thanks.